Hey everybody, and welcome to another Interstellar Modeler. This is now part 2 of my Bandai 1/48 scale Snowspeeder build. Alright, well, welcome back everybody. What I wanted to start off with was to show you the plan for the lighting here. Not too involved again with the lighting, I just wanted to put a light at the top of the cockpit here to shine down onto the cockpit area so that you'd be able to see the inside detailing. So again, we're using an SMD chip size light. This is a nano size light from ModelTrainSoftware.com. Doesn't need a lot of room. Luckily, the window shield here happens to have an opening right in the middle where we need it, and that allows us enough room to mount our little light there. We don't need a lot, but still, had this gone all the way across, it might have been an issue and I would have had to have cut an opening there, but not necessary because there's one already there. We just use super glue to hold it in place. The wire runs this way, back along this edge of the window, and we'll exit out here. Now in the middle there's room to actually drill a small little hole, and that's all we need because remember these SMDs have very thin wires, so that's the beauty of them. And I was able to thread that through. This is going to be covered by this back piece, so it's going to conceal the wiring quite nicely. So once this is threaded through here, we're going to go ahead and solder a little bit more wire because this is not going to be enough to reach through the stand. The wire then will exit adjacent to the section here that mounts the stand. And just like with my A-wing, if you want to go and review that video, the wire is going to run through the neck of the stand here because there just happens to be this open area we can cover with styrene plastic. But the wire will run through, exit out through the bottom, and down through to the base. So you'll notice it doesn't have a resistor, and that's because we're going to only use a 3-volt battery. So with a 3-volt, you do not need the resistor. Alright, so that is the plan, and let's go ahead and move forward with the rest of the ship now. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and deal with the panel lines here first before we start assembling the model, and we're going to go ahead and use one of our pigments here, or the washes from the Spaceship Sci-Fi Weathering Set from MIG Ammo. I'm going to go ahead and apply this along the panel lines here. It'll look a little messy at the beginning, but once that dries, we're going to go ahead and use this odorless thinner to wipe away the excess. I've already applied a gloss coating onto the surface because that's what we need to do first. So let's go ahead and get started. So next thing we need to do is to apply the thinner. You can see I've already started the process here and just getting a little bit on the brush here and then just clearing it away just little by little here. Well, you can probably see that one challenge to this technique is you want to be careful not to wipe away too much of the pigmentation. It's easy to put too much of the odorless thinner on your brush, and next thing you know, you're just wiping away everything. So the trick is to basically almost dry brush. You hardly want any thinner on your brush as you're skimming along the surface there. And if you do that, you'll leave behind the lines that you want. Right, well, next step in the weathering process is to apply these windswept streaks here, and these dark markings are possible by using the Tamiya Weathering Master Kit. I know I've shown this method before, and I will show you and demonstrate on the bottom section here. But this is like a makeup kit for your models. It's really very, very helpful to have. I can't emphasize that enough. You just take these sponge-like applicators, and you dip it into the pigment, and here we just swept along the wing here to create these streaks. Also used it, this back section here. In addition, I'm going to go ahead and display some of the detailing here because it's a shame to hide it all. As you know, Bandai just includes so much detailing, as I've mentioned. And so we're going to go ahead and display the model with this flap in the up position so we can peek inside there. And I use some dry brushing along with applying some of our washes to dirty it up inside. Alright, so I'm just going to show you real quickly how to use this again. So let's go ahead and proceed on to the bottom section. Alright, before I move on to the model, I do want to show you what I have in mind for the base here. So what comes with the model is this base here, which is pretty plain. Obviously I don't like to do things plain, so we're going to go ahead and dispense with that. My original idea was to utilize this and mount it onto this piece of plastic that I have here, but I decided just to go ahead and drill a hole that matches this here so we can mount our display neck right here. So the wires are going to run through, and then the battery is going to be mounted underneath here. But on top here, I wanted to create a kind of a rocky, snowy landscape that the fighter would be flying over. And so I've got some styrofoam glued into place here that is going to be used to help us shape our rocks there. And then we're going to just use plaster Paris to create a fairly flat area out over this way. And then this is all going to be painted this gray color, and that is going to be then covered by this stuff here. So the idea is to have it fly over kind of a rocky, snowy landscape here, and I think it should work out. Just want to take a second just to show you this little compartment I've created for the battery now underneath the stand. I just took some rods from Evergreen Scale Models, cut them into sections here, and sized it for our battery. Now I'm going to go ahead and take this piece of styrene and cut a piece here to cover it like so. Alright, and here we now have the finished battery compartment. You can see it holds the battery pretty well in place, and the wires feed over here to the switch, which I've mounted on here. I first attached it with super glue and then encased it in some plastic putty just to make sure that it doesn't fall out of place there. So I'm going to go ahead and paint that black so it blends in with the rest of the stand. Alright, next up is to work on the neck of the stand here. This will glue onto the base, and you can see I've already covered one side here with some styrene plastic, just using some thin styrene here. Just traced out a pattern and glued it on. And the other side I'm working on now is the one that will accommodate the wires. Cut a little notch here at the bottom and a little hole here to feed through to the model. Alright, so you can see our stand is coming along here. We have the main support piece now hooked off to the base, and we've got all our wiring set, got a little extra hot glue there to hold things in place, and our switch is ready to go. So, in order to move on now, I decided to go ahead and do it this way with hooking the support piece here and then landscaping it, rather than having the model already assembled and trying to insert that into the completed base. I figured I'll do it this way. Either way, it's going to be a little awkward because I'm going to have to assemble the rest of the model on the stand here. So there was really no easy way. I thought if I had the model sitting here and I had to try to do the landscaping, it might have messed it up, you know, getting plaster all over the place, so I didn't want to take that risk. Alright, so I have everything masked off now, even the base here along the edges. So I'm going to go ahead and mix together the plaster, and let's go ahead and mold our landscape. So I know this isn't looking like much just yet, but I'm going to go ahead and give this some time to dry overnight. For you, it's just going to take a second. Once it's dry, I'm going to go ahead and get started on the painting, and we'll add the snow effect. Alright, well, it's definitely hardened and ready to go now and start painting. So the plan is to use a gray color, and I'll do some shading along the rocks here. After that's dried, we're going to go ahead and apply our snow. And I do plan on having some exposed areas of rock. And in those areas, we'll be using this solution here to create some frosting effects. Alright, we're now ready to apply the snow, and so this is going to go in layers, I think. I was watching their YouTube videos, and in terms of an adhesive, they've tried different ones. The most effective seems to actually be hairspray. You need to get a max hold hairspray. And so we're going to go ahead and apply it to the surface here and sprinkle the snow and allow each layer to dry, and we'll slowly build it up. So the plan is to cover all of this area with a good covering here, and then the top of the rocks as well, leaving some areas exposed along here. Alright, you can see I've made quite a bit of progress. With each layer of snow, I've applied a fine mist of the hairspray. It does a really good job at holding everything in place. Just make sure you're giving ample time to dry with each layer that you are laying down. One last thing to do is to apply a clear acrylic finish to the snow, and the purpose for that is to waterproof it, and that's been suggested by the maker of the product, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So after that's done, I'm going to go ahead and move back to the model to complete it. What's left to do now is to apply the snow and ice wash, and then we're going to go ahead and apply some of the decals, and then do final assembly. So almost there. Alright, so I want to talk about this here. This is the Kreisel Ice and Snow Wash before I show you the completed model. Now, this stuff here is what you would apply just to show like a buildup of frost and snow on little corners and areas of your model. This is a fast-moving aircraft. I realize Hoth is a very cold planet, so you're probably going to have some accumulation, but because it's flying quickly, you're not going to have a lot of snow accumulation on the aircraft. But I thought it would be fun to add some of this here, and so I'll show you, as I said, the completed model. But let me just show you how this works. So I have this old piece of an X-Wing, and what you want to do is you definitely want to shake it because it is a suspension. All the stuff will settle down at the bottom, so it's important that you really give it a good shake. And so what I did was I just shook it really well and poured some into the cap. Alright, so once you have it in your cap, you just want to continually stir it. And it's just a matter of applying it onto your model, and you just let it dry. And you just continually building it up to the level that you want it. So with our Snowspeeder, I'm building it in this flying configuration, so we're not going to have a huge amount of buildup here, but what I did was I just applied it to certain crevices where I think it would show some accumulation. And you can see as it dries, it looks like this. Now the cool thing is, if you overdo it, you can actually just dip your brush in water, and so if it looks a little messy here, you can actually start wiping away at it and fine-tune the look. So you can see how it easily gets rid of it, just like so. And that's what happened with the Snowspeeder. Like I said, I didn't want to overdo it, and some areas were coming out a little bit messy since it's my first time using it, and yet it was very easy to kind of fine-tune the look by wiping away like that. So again, this stuff is made by Precision Ice and Snow. I would look them up online. They've got some tutorials, as I mentioned there, that show you some really amazing things you can do with this sort of stuff. So check them out, and let's go ahead and show you now the completed model. So before I move on here, I just want to show you how the wires were soldered. These are the wires, of course, that feed in from the stand. This is from the ship here. You can see they're hooked together and the light does turn on. So the wires are just going to tuck inside the wing here, and that should be good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and finish the assembly, and I will show you the completed model in just a second. Alright, so here we now have the completed model kit. I'm really excited to show you this one. This is the Snowspeeder from Bandai. It is a 1/48 scale representation of the model and measures 4 inches from front to back, and also has a 4-inch wingspan. This particular build represents a couple of firsts for me, using some products from Precision Ice and Snow, first to create the display base and to create some of the snow and frost buildup that you see on the surface of the model. So taking a closer look now at the surface of the model, you can see the snow and ice buildup that was accomplished using the snow and ice wash from Precision Ice and Snow. A lot of snow and ice there. But these solutions were very, very easy to work with. I can imagine a lot of potential here with other types of projects that you can construct, including one that comes to mind as maybe an Imperial Walker with a diorama of a snow scene. These were, again, very easy to work with and very simple to use, so I would highly recommend going to their website if you want to know more information about them. They also, again, provide some details and tutorials that you can find helpful with some of your builds, and they also sell other products as well. So the other solution that I found very helpful with this model were the solutions from MiG Ammo. They now have a Starship detailing set, and I suppose just what makes it a Starship detailing set are just the colors that are provided with those washes. Bandai, as usual, provided some nice clean panel lines here that were deep enough to take a wash, and really very simple to use those solutions and bring out those panel lines there. And of course the Tamiya weathering kit, I have the one that has snow, rust, and soot in it, and so I was able to use some of the snow pigment as well. You can see some of it was applied here to the back grille. So another tool that you can use to help detail your models in a more precise way. Now you can also tell that I did use pastels here to darken up the interior here along the sides here and here, as well as the front section. So I still do use pastels, but as you saw in the video when I was putting this together, we get much better control in being able to control the application of pigment as we design these streaks that you see here along the wing. The other technique that was used to weather the model was both the salt technique as well as utilizing liquid mask just to create our chipped surface here. One thing I did want to draw your attention to here are these gaps that you see along the wing, and there are some small gaps on the opposite side as well. Now I did test fit this model, and as I was doing so I could tell there were going to be some gaps here. Now maybe some of this was contributed by the fact that I had to assemble this while the bottom half was on the stand. If you recall, I had to do that because of the wiring. But I'm disappointed that the pieces just don't fit as tightly as they should. The Y-wing and the A-wing didn't have these concerns, so I was just a bit disappointed that this was the case here. Now, talking about the illumination, let me go ahead and turn on that cockpit light. And so again, the purpose of the lighting here was to allow the viewer to be able to look inside the cockpit, because there is so much intricate detailing here that Bandai provides as usual. And so I thought it would have been a shame not to be able to see that. And sure enough, it does accomplish our goal here. You can see the instrumentation panel here as well as on the pilot side. The lighting that I used again was an SMD light. It is a nano size, chip size light from modeltrainsoftware.com. And this being powered by a 3-volt battery, so that's really nice because that saves us from having to need a resistor, and also is very space saving when you're trying to look for battery storage underneath the display stand. So let's go ahead and talk about the stand here for a second. Again, this product is from Precision Ice and Snow as well. This is their Crycel fine powder that was utilized to create this winter-like base, and very easy to work with as well. As you saw, this stuff can be applied just using hairspray, and finally coating it with a clear acrylic coating. The one thing that I would do differently, at least when I make another stand using this stuff, is I'm going to get something to be able to sift the powder with that you can just tap and allow the powder to drop down. It probably will allow it to drop more evenly. As you can see in the video, I used a spoon to do that, and it was okay, but it came out a little bit rougher. I want the snow to look a bit fluffier. So that's something that you might want to look into getting, and they also sell something like that on their website. Alright, so that pretty much does it for this project. I hope you enjoyed following this build. Overall, I give this model a pretty high rating, with just the exception that there are some of those gaps that you saw as the pieces fit together there. I would say that one thing that you could do to address those issues is maybe make some of those openings there a little wider so those pieces will be able to slide in better. So if I do build this again, which I just may do that, I'm going to definitely try to address those concerns, because if I were to enter this into a competition, that's something that they would definitely look at. Alright guys, well if you have any other questions, feel free to contact me here on my YouTube channel or at interstellarmodeler@gmail.com. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.